Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد حبيب إله العالمين أبا القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. I would like to extend to you all my wholehearted welcomes and congratulations on this auspicious, joyous occasion. The birth of God's second greatest creation, the birth of the light of mercy, the root of the religion of Islam, the successor of the Holy Prophet of Islam, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. It was a very difficult night on the 10th of Rajab, approximately in the year 600 of the Common Era, when Lady Fatima bint Asad, the wife of the noble, esteemed Abu Talib, salamullahi alayhima, noticed that her time is coming and that the pain of labor is kicking in. And she looks and searches for some form of comfort and ease. This pious, God-fearing lady, noble lady, approaches and begins to walk towards the holy Grand Mosque, the holy Kaaba. By herself, as she is struggling with these difficulties of childbirth, Lady Fatima bint Asad approaches the holy Kaaba. Then, surrounded by idols and statues depicting deities worshipped by the nomads and the Arabians in that era. Yet that did not stand as an obstacle in her path towards God's holy house, reflecting to us the level of devotion, the level of mahabbah / mawaddah, love and intense love, the mother of Amir al-Mu'mineen had for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In that previous to the message of Islam, Lady Fatima bint Asad recognizes that her greatest means of tranquility in the moment of difficulty is God's house, the holy Kaaba. A lovely lesson, a gesture, piece of advice that we can all take aboard. You feel the pain of this life, you feel the difficulties it has and it throws at your direction. Face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Metaphorically speaking, face your Lord, address your Lord, speak to your Lord. And if you can establish a bond directly between you and one of the symbols of Allah, such as the Holy Kaaba, such as our wonderful Maracas, in addition to that, God-fearing, pious people, men and women alike, those are sources of solace and calmness and relief. Lady Fatima bint Asad approaches the Holy Kaaba, and books of tradition narrate and highlight to us the following statement that she announced and pronounced, such that the crowd that was present, witnessing what she had said, were in shock. They were, one might describe, they had their bones chilling to the result of the significance and power of the words that she uttered. What did she say? The following is accepted in both the narrative of the school of Ahlul Bayt and our brothers and sisters from other schools of thought. Lady Fatima bint Asad approached the Kaaba and she began to raise her hands to the sky, however high she could, despite the pangs of labor and the thought of any moment she is going to bear a child. Only mothers truly know the difficulty this has. She raises her hands and begins to pronounce, Allahumma inni mu'minatun bik, wa bima ja'a min indik, wa inni musaddiqatun bi kalami jaddi Ibrahim alayhi salam, wa innahu bana al-bayt al-atiq, فبحق هذا البيت وبحق المولود الذي في بطني إلا ما يسرت علي ولادتي. Very beautiful yet powerful lines. Oh Allah, the one who sent Abraham, and on the one who built the holy house, the Kaaba, and on behalf of the one inside of me, the child that is in me, ease my difficulties and ease this process, for truly it is a difficult process. And at times it can become so difficult and arduous of a process that many die, unfortunately. But due to its challenge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Islamic law perceives those who have died in this process, the women who give birth, as shuhada, as martyrs in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the sense of what they had to endure and go through. Lady Fatima bint Asad alayha salam publicly makes that announcement and statement, recognizing her grandfather Ibrahim, the one who had built the Kaaba, and beginning to ask Allah through Ibrahim, through the holy Kaaba, and in addition to that, acknowledging that the Mawlud, the infant in her womb, is of great importance and significance, asks Allah, ease my pains. Immediately, the whole of society witnessed, as documented in narrations found in our end and in multiple schools of thought, the walls of the Kaaba tore open for her. Everyone was in shock. She walked right inside those open walls and she goes inside the holy house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lady Fatima bint Asad, as she turns around, the walls begin to seal, close, shut, as if they had never split open ever before. Hysteria. People were confused, concerned, paranoid. What just happened? Shocked. Many began to run to Abu Talib. Abu Talib being the custodian of the Grand Mosque of Mecca, the owner of the keys of the Kaaba, the greatest person to take charge of what had just happened. And the husband of Lady Fatima bint Asad is approached by many people. Abu Talib, what just happened? Come to your wife's aid. She just walked inside the Kaaba. Not even through the door. The walls ripped open for her. May Allah allow us the privilege and honor to visit the Holy Kaaba. The corner that opened up for Lady Fatima bint Asad is described as Al-Rukn al-Yamani. It is the Yemeni corner of the Kaaba in the sense that that direction of the corner faces towards the country of Yemen. And it was that corner that has been exposed and allowed Lady Fatima bint Asad access inside it. Why would Allah grant such a miracle for Fatima bint Asad? Why not just have the doors open up? It's as if, and God is the most knowledgeable of all his decision making, it's as if that the hastening and the longing to get this process over with, as accepted by the dua of Lady Fatima bint Asad, ease my trouble, ease my difficulties, was accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And rather than the door, to make a statement that what is to happen, what shall happen, is not a moment we will ever forget. 3 days go by. People are confused. Abu Talib refuses to access the Kaaba under the pretext of if the walls opened up. And this is a miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why would we try to be in the way of a miracle of God? Let the miracle do its part. She had a Lord that opened the walls for her. She has a Lord that'll come back and open those walls again. On that third day, 13 of Rajab, brothers and sisters, remember this day. Remember this day. There are dates in history that we remember due to their significance. Let this be one of those days, brothers and sisters. If you were to be asked about your own birthday, as important as of a day as that is, definitely, then without hesitation, you know exactly the time, day, year, month, so on and so forth. What about the birth of Amirah al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam? On the 13th of Rajab, the year 600 of the Common Era, the walls of the Kaaba. Many traditions highlight in the afternoon that the walls of the Kaaba, once again from that same location, split open once more, miraculously. But this time, Lady Fatima bint Asad, previous to that moment, entered the Kaaba alone. However, this moment, she exits it with company. She is holding a young baby, a little child, in her arms, and the kid is cradled in the arms of his mother. The crowd flocks to her, and they all witness what happened. She gives them glad tidings. In that crowd, a man, roughly 31 years old, approaches Lady Fatima bint Asad alongside his uncle Abu Talib. This man approaches Fatima bint Asad and he requests from her if he can hold the child. Fatima bint Asad gives the baby to none other than Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Then Rasulullah was 31 years old. He takes the child, and history narrates, shows us that when Rasulullah took the baby, the young child of Abu Talib, the youngest child of Abu Talib, the last child of Abu Talib, Rasulullah held him in his arms, and he finally opened his eyes. Children might take a few days from when they are born to open their eyes. According to this tradition, this young baby didn't open his eyes until he was in the arms of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the first thing he sees, or the first thing his eyes are exposed to, is the blessed face of Rasulullah, the Holy Messenger of God. And then the Holy Prophet announces that it is an order from the heavens that this child is to be named the following, as everyone is witnessing, as his father Abu Talib is standing and his mother is facing the Prophet, and the crowd is eager to know. He begins to announce that he will be named Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salam. And this young Amir al-Mu'mineen, this Ali ibn Abi Talib, salamullahi alayh, grows up in the confines of Rasulullah, in the home of the Holy Prophet, the closest to Rasulullah. Due to Abu Talib's old age, due to his family being extremely busy with their responsibilities and duties, as mentioned, Abu Talib was the custodian of the haram, was the Shaykh al-Ashira, the chief of the tribe. In addition to being very old, could not tend to raising a child. This young child is arguably the sixth child from his, or seventh child from the children of Abu Talib. Abu Talib, books of history describe him being known as Abdul Munaf is his name. His oldest son is Talib, hence Aba Talib. Okay. Then he has Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. Then he has Aqil ibn Abi Talib, the famous father of Muslim ibn Aqil salamullahi alayh. Then he has these two daughters, Jumana and Fakhita, mainly described as Umhani. Then he has one last boy, Ali ibn Abi Talib. But he cannot raise him due to all of his responsibilities and so on. Therefore, the Holy Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam requests from Abu Talib, may I take him in my care? Allow me the opportunity and role of being his father. Let me raise him the same way you raised me, O Abu Talib. Because Abu Talib, and it's subhanallah, very uncanny almost, in the sense that Abu Talib raised the Prophet in his youth, when he didn't necessarily have guardians able to raise him. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, born and he didn't see his father. He died while he was in the womb of his mother, and his father Abdullah ridwanullahi ta'ala alayh, passed away of sickness. Then later on his mother passes away. Then he is in the care of his grandfather Abdul Muttalib. He passes away. Then finally Abu Talib, his uncle, raises him. Now the roles have been reversed. Now Rasulullah is requesting from Abu Talib, allow me to raise this child of yours. I'll take care of him. And now Rasulullah takes the son of Abu Talib and raises him in his home, frequenting the visits between one another such that the father can see his son. And Lady Fatima bint Asad, who was like the mother of Rasulullah, verbatim, the Prophet called her my mother. Innaha ummi, Rasulullah would make very clear. And he would make sure that they would see that child, and the child would grow in the home of the Holy Prophet, spoon-fed by Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Was the upbringing of Amir al-Mu'mineen, taking care of the Holy Prophet, and Amir al-Mu'mineen was with him through thick and thin, literally raised in the house of nobility. Later on married from the house of nobility. Later on was succeeded as the successor from the house of nobility. Later on leads the house of nobility. Later on Amir al-Mu'mineen was martyred in the house of nobility in the most noble of months, on the most noble of days, Laylatul Qadr. Such was the example of the great man we come and honor today, the voice of human justice. Indeed, justice is a universal message. You don't have to be Muslim to understand and appreciate justice and recognize its significance in the lives of every creation. You have to only be human and have a heart, something that many extremists do not have. They are heartless. But as Muslims, we carry the softest of hearts, for the softest of hearts, the heart of Rasulullah, taught us that irrespective of religiosity, everyone deserves equal, fair, just treatment. This was manifested with whom? The best, none other than, after the Holy Prophet, Ali ibn Abi Talib. A very famous poet and author and writer in Lebanon of the 20th century, George Jordak, was a Christian individual who authored many works and wrote really good poems. He has a piece he wrote in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He titled it Al-Imam Ali, Sawtul Adala al-Insaniyyah. Imam Ali, the voice of human justice. Why would a Christian individual write about Amir al-Mu'mineen and describe him as the voice of human justice? Let's observe the following. When Imam Ali officially received, finally received the rights that he deserved, which were usurped from him some 23 odd years ago, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, in the 36th year after Hijrah, finally publicly assumes the role of Khilafah and leadership. However, to us, he was leader since day one. Whether he sits on a chair called the chair of leadership, Khilafah, that doesn't make any difference to us. Allah chose him for us. But finally, now he is able to exercise and execute that role. When Imam was Khalifa, what went on in those years? Tumultuous, arduous, difficult years. Four years and around 8 months. Imam Ali was Khalifa until he was martyred, salamullahi alayh. 3 civil wars. The Battle of Jamal, against whom of all people? The wife of the Holy Prophet. A very difficult time. The Battle of Siffin, against whom of all people? Muawiyah, the pretty much king of Sham in that region at that time. Then the Battle of Nahrawan, modern day extremists, but back then. ISIS of that time, the Khawarij in the Battle of Nahrawan. Difficult years. When a nation goes through war, it would be very shocking to see that they have no inflation in their country, their economy is doing really well. It would be very surprising to see that such a nation that's going through 3 civil wars and all of these difficulties in their time would be stable, would have the means and the agriculture necessary to provide to one another. You would think that would be something very impossible, correct? Nope, not under Imam Ali alayhi salam. Despite the 3 civil wars that he went through, that those who fought him unjustly, Imam Ali managed to have such a successful nation under his tenure of 4 years and 8 months that there was not even a single individual who qualified as a recipient of zakat charity money. Read At-Tarikh Al-Dhahabi, not a Shi'i, nope, a historian from the other school of thought. Tarikh Al-Dhahabi mentions the following, that under the leadership of Ali ibn Abi Talib, كانت الناس, the people used to be able to have 3 things that most nations did not have. يأكلون البر, they used to eat good bread. All people had good bread. A form of expression to highlight that everyone had food. وَيُنَامُونَ فِي الظِّلِّ, and they would sleep under shade. Everyone under the establishment of Imam Ali sleeps under what? Shade. Meaning everyone had a roof over their head. Not one person was homeless under the tenure of the 4 years and 8 months of the rule of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib. It's not a surprise. I mean, he was the same man who said, if poverty was a man, I would have killed him. And literally, he killed poverty. No one was outside and didn't have a place to go to. They slept under shade, at least if it was just a construction that they had to go to. They had shelter. يأكلون البر ينامون في الظل ويشربون ماء الفرات, and they would drink from the Euphrates River, meaning food, water, shelter, peace, and stability. It reached such a level. The amount of justice, despite 3 civil wars, it reached such a level that Amir al-Mu'mineen had an influx of wheat and food and grain from the Ministry of Agriculture at the time, such that he began to command and order his deputies to make sure that they collect all of this wheat and all of these grains and the seeds and all of this, the extra and the excess that was there, and to spread that on the hilltops and the mountaintops They would inquire, why ya Abul Hasan? Imam would give the reply back, so that when a person passes by my nation, they will say that not even the birds went hungry under the rule of Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. In the year 39 after Hijrah, Imam Ali began his tenure of Khalifa publicly in the 36th year. 4 years and 8 months later go by. So in the year 39, close to the 40th year after Hijrah, the year he was marked, Salamullahi alayh, not one person demanded assistance from Bayt al-Mal, the treasury, in the form of either zakat or khums. What is zakat and khums? It's the mandatory charity that we are obligated to give after we make a surplus amount of money annually. 1/5 of that surplus goes to charity, goes to those who are in need. Goes to whom? Goes to the destitute, goes to the person that is starving, cannot make ends meet, the homeless, the faqir, the miskeen. It goes to these individuals. In the year 39 after Hijrah, not one person said, I need money from Bayt al-Mal. I am a miskeen. Meaning, under the Khilafah and Caliphate of Amir al-Mu'mineen, not one person was broke or poor. How competent of a leader must you have been, Ya Ali ibn Abi Talib? And do you guys know what the Muslim Caliphate was at the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen? From the west of Egypt, Masr, to the ends of Khurasan, which at the time was India. At the time was India. Khurasan spans from Iran to India. So from the east of Khurasan, east of India, to the west of Egypt, and a little bit more, all of that was under the Muslim Empire. And this includes the Arabian Peninsula, Yemen, and Ethiopia as well. All of this was the Khilafah. Not one person demanded any assistance from zakat, from khums, from Baytul Mal, demanded shelter, food, water, all through 3 civil wars, no inflation, no areas of corruption, and while maintaining the most competent and most just positions. Ali ibn Abi Talib is that example. And it reached the point, brothers and sisters, that his justice transcends time. The world's biggest humanitarian organizations recognize his leadership and his efforts. Kofi Annan, the late General Secretary of the United Nations, issued a statement, and it's available online. I encourage all of you, if you have the time later, to go and look up the statement of Kofi Annan in regards to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. Kofi Annan, in a very paraphrased, summarized version, states the following, that the example of Ali ibn Abi Talib is the fairest and greatest example of a just Muslim ruler. For how he ruled is truly unique, and it is upon the other nations of the world to take his example. The world's biggest humanitarian organizations, Ya Abul Hasan, recognize your value. And his value, brothers and sisters, and justice did not go exclusively to the human being. You would think it would stop there. The world of animals, the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, all of that was a recipient of his justice. Continue reading the works of Tariq al-Dhahabi and so on. You will find that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam even demanded that you see the strays, the dogs and the cats and all of these, I demand from everyone to make sure that these stray animals are put in a location where they no longer have to look and scavenge for food. Make like a daycare for them, such that they can come, a shelter rather, a better use of words here, a shelter for these animals that are strays, that have nowhere to go to. For indeed, he is the same person who made very clear that, oh Allah, Allahumma inni as'aluka birahmatika allati wasi'at kulla shay. Oh Allah, I ask you on your mercy that encompasses all things. The first opening line in Dua Kumail of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. When Imam says that, his rahmah encompasses all things, Imam doesn't just say that, he implements it. He makes it a reality. The rahmah that Allah gave everything, I'm not going to make it exclusive to Bani al-Bashar. the human being, I'll make sure that the animal kingdom gets a piece of it, that the earth gets a piece of it, that your mind gets a piece of it. Everything is subject to rahmah and justice under the tenure, under the rule, under the hand of Amir al-Mu'mineen, despite how powerful Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was. Unstoppable, unmatchable, whether be it in the battlefield or be it in the political sphere. Whatever he was doing, he was the greatest in that regard. He was so strong in that regard. Despite that, the softest of hearts with the orphan children, and would constantly be seen tending to their needs, making their days a little bit more enjoyable. And he would spend so much time with these orphans that he was labeled. Brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. Only one man in history has been given this title, Abal Yatama, the father of the orphans. Tell me, how much of a heart did you have, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, such that people named you your action, taking care of the orphan. Abal Yatama, the father of the orphan. You would think that that roaring lion on the battlefield would maintain that abrasiveness, that strength outside of the battlefield. The roaring lion on the battlefield and the weeping slave at the mihrab praying in the masjid is what made him the softest of hearts in the presence of the orphans. They would constantly run after him. The orphans would go after him, seek his comfort. The child that didn't have a dad saw Imam Ali as their dad. The child that did not have a mother saw Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen as their mother. And they loved Amir al-Mu'mineen, and they cared for him like they cared for their own family, such that when Imam Ali alayhi salam was struck, was ill, was struck by that sword of the Mal'un ibn Muljim, news broke out that milk helps and eases his wound, eases some of his pain. At the door of the house of Imam Ali were tens of young babies, children, little kids, holding pails of milk, trying to give that to Amir al-Mu'mineen, remembering how much care and love he showed to them. They wanted to reciprocate some of that back to their father and mother, Ali ibn Abi Talib. The heart he had, brothers and sisters, it's an antithetical quality that he exhibits. Strong and courageous on the battlefield, the softest and most tender of hearts in the face of the orphan. And this is the example of human justice, brothers and sisters, we need in the world today. The world is crying for justice. The world is looking for a savior of some kind or something that can help put a stop to all the injustices, the oppression that is out there, the criminals that are out there, the extremists that are out there. We say to all of man and womankind, take the example of the King of Justice. Take the example of the legend that is Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all on this holy day. Let us gather, inshallah ta'ala, and remember the merits of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Today isn't necessarily the 13th of Rajab, as it is likely the 8th of Rajab. And so the birth of Amir al-Mu'mineen coming up on the 13th of Rajab, let us inshallah ta'ala learn more about his life. Let us gather and read from the words of wisdom of Amir al-Mu'mineen. You have a few days until then. But on that day, do not let the opportunity go. That on the day of the birth of Amir al-Mu'mineen, you will open your heart and allow the love of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib inside you by making sure you represent him in the greatest way. Do you want to love Imam Ali properly? Represent him in the greatest way. Number one, do not be shy to say that you are a follower and Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Don't be shy. Do not hesitate to say that. In this world today, no matter how many people talk bad against you, against your religion, against your madhab, do not care about the comments in the comment section of YouTube, of Instagram, of Twitter, of TikTok, of Facebook, you will see a lot of anti-Shia rhetoric out there, Shia phobia rhetoric out there. The world today has now decided to transition from fighting you and speaking to you face to face to attacking everything you love in your worldview online. Don't let that sway you. Number one, be proud to say you're a Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib. That's one. Furthermore, make sure that your etiquette and your characteristics and quality mimic that of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now, Imam is on this pedestal that he literally set the scale so high. It doesn't mean you don't aim for it, because you will never achieve Ali ibn Abi Talib's status. But like they always say, aim for the moon, and if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars of this world. Look at all those lovers of Amir al-Mu'mineen, all of the wonderful examples we have of God-fearing, pious people, of the scholars, of the women who have devoted their lives to representing the qualifications of Ali ibn Abi Talib, of the men. Look at all those whom you admire that truly have that pure aqeedah in their hearts. Try to mimic them, in so doing mimicking the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Because truly we can never achieve the life of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. That is way beyond our understanding. He demands an infallible ma'soom at the end of the day. But if you set him as your goal and you won't hit him exactly that location, you'll hit a little bit under him, being amongst the stars of all those wonderful members of the followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen. You will end up being like a companion of Imam Ali. In this world today, you are like a companion of Amir al-Mu'mineen, a servant of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And how honorable is that title for a person, to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have him address you as the servant of Ali ibn Abi Talib in the 21st century today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all, brothers and sisters. Please keep us all in your prayers and in your du'as on this auspicious day. Wassalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much for your beautiful lecture today, Sayed. If you don't mind, can we do a short Q&A before we end?
Inshallah, no problem.
So our first question was sent in by one of our brothers, and his question is, do the Sunni also accept that the Imam was born in Kaaba? If so, what are the references?
It is disputed by the other school of thoughts whether the Imam was born inside the Kaaba or not. However, the ijma' and consensus between narrations that are found in their end and in our end are a plethora of amount, such that there is a consensus, underlining consensus between our scholarship and that narrative as well, indicating the birth of Amir al-Mu'mineen. The exception are those who say he wasn't born. They need to come and substantiate their point of view. The default understanding and consensus was that Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was born. You can refer to the schools of Al-Azhar University in Egypt, the biggest Sunni academic institution in the modern world today. There is that recognition by even that credible institution that yes, Ali ibn Abi Talib was born in the Kaaba. The narrations and references are plentiful, as we mentioned. You can find them in many works, whether I believe it is Tariq al-Dhahabi or al-Tabari and so on, from that narrative. We concern ourselves with our narrative. However, yeah, there is an area of disagreement between the Salafi worldview versus the rest moderate Sunni narrative that is out there, but the overwhelming consensus and default opinion is indeed Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen was born inside the Holy Kaaba.
Thank you, Sayed. The next question is, what is Laylat Rajab that happened this Thursday? What is it exactly? Why do people fast on that day, or why does it hold importance? I guess really the whole month.
I believe Laylatul Ragab. I think that was perhaps what was referenced. Al-Ragab comes from the understanding of a raghba, a desire, a haja. And it coincides with the first Laylatul Jum'ah of the month of Rajab. So the first Friday of the holy month of Rajab is considered a spiritually significant time. Laylatul Jum'ah would fall in that area of Laylatul Ragab. So a raghba, a desire. Why is it called that? To reference that all of the desires and hajat and wishes and hopes that every mu'min and mu'minah has in that moment, if they are to be expressed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the likelihood of them being accepted and answered is much greater. Out of a karam, or out of Allah's generosity for the significance of the first night of Friday in the month of Rajab.
Thank you, Sayed. And for our last question, a little bit of a heavier question, not relating to the lecture today. Why were we created? If it was for us to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you could say that Allah does not need our worship. Why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us?
Very age-old question. Philosophers have philosophized for thousands of years, then worldviews and religions have attempted to tackle. I believe the Holy Quran has given a wonderful explanation. The Quran explains 3 reasons. The common understanding is what? That وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And I have not created the jinn and the insan except to worship me. But that's not all what Allah said. Allah continues, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. The one who has created death. Notice how Allah prioritizes death first. Created death, then life. To trial you, which one of you is the greatest in conduct? So Allah created life and death, or death and life, to trial us. Which one of us is greatest in conduct? A discussion of free will out there, because how is he to trial us if we do not have the free will to go on and see how we can improve our conduct? Ahsanu amala. That's the second reason. And the last reason, which really can hit home to many people, إِلَّا مِنْ رَحِمَ رَبُّكَ وَلِذَلِكَ خَلَقَكُمْ. That from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and for that reason He created us. Out of the love Allah has for you, He created you. Allah loves you, so He created you. It's up to you to maintain that love and maintain it until you return back to your Lord. And so we have these 3 summarized explanations. Worshipping Allah, a greatest honor indeed. Allah created us for that purpose. To trial us of whoever has the greatest conduct. أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. A discussion on free will. How do we improve our conduct? We have the freedom to do so. Let's make our conduct and akhlaq the best of akhlaq and the best of conduct. And the last reason, the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah created us to bestow us with love and mercy. Allah, if He did not love you, He would not have created you. The fact that He made you means that He loves you. It's up to you to maintain that love, inshallah ta'ala.
Thank you so much for being a wonderful guest this evening, and inshallah everyone continues this month and be safe and warm. I know that around the country it's getting very icy everywhere, so please do stay safe, and inshallah we will see everyone again in March. Thank you so much, Sayed. Assalamu alaikum.
My pleasure. Wassalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.